Yes, I'm drinking out of a pair of pants.
Pants.
Hey folks, today's video, I wanted to get a little bit
Petty.
just for the sake of it. I'd seen this video going around. I've seen a handful of people make videos about it. I know Smoky Glow has, I know Lauren May Beauty has, I believe Angelica Nyquist has as well. And we're gonna talk about some of the worst makeup collaborations. Some of the worst makeup and influencer collaborations. And when I was compiling my list, I realized that there's like so many, like way more than I remember. So this is just gonna be like influencers collaborating. I might do a second one of these just talking about like brands collaborating with intellectual properties. So like one of the dozens of Disney things that ColourPop, MAC, Tarte, Pure, all these companies have done with intellectual properties, but today we're just going to be talking about like influencers. I will tell you, when going through like lists of things, there was one collection that I can't find any information on, and I really need to know if this is a Mandela effect, if I'm just like remembering something that never happened. There was a collaboration that ColourPop did with these like two, I don't remember if they were sisters or if they were like heiresses to something. It was like kind of similar to like a Paris and Nicole, but it wasn't Paris and Nicole. And it was these two girls I had never heard of, and they like did like lip pencils or something. It was the dumbest thing I'd ever seen, but I couldn't find any information on it because ColourPop has done so many collaborations that like I couldn't pinpoint any sort of specific information about it. So if you remember that, please let me know and tell me what it was, because I'm gonna go crazy if I can't figure it out. Somebody really needs to just do a comprehensive list of all of the collaborations that ColourPop has done. I'm not volunteering, okay? I'm not volunteering.
Okay.
So this is my personal opinion. It's my personal opinion. Before I dig in and roast things that you may or may not like, this is my own opinion. You may like some of these things. I don't. Too Faced has two different collections on this. The first being the Too Faced and Nikkie Tutorials, The Power of Makeup collaboration. This had all of the makings of a good collaboration, but Too Faced did Nikkie very, very dirty. Too Faced fucked Nikkie Tutorials over so bad, they sent her a palette with one kind of quality, and then the palette that they mass produced, sending out to all of her fans, was absolute trash. So she was all excited about this. She was getting the palette, she was testing it out, she was showing it on camera, she was posting about it to her fans, and then when people were getting it in the mail, they were like, oh, this is not Too Faced quality, this is bad. Because like one thing that I've heard about Too Faced is that their regular like year-round permanent products are not bad quality. So this was a case of them doing like the holiday quality. It went over even worse because it was a collaboration with a massive creator with a lot of power, and Nikkie really got fucked over. They didn't give her the money that she deserved for it. They screwed her over entirely, financially as well as just like ethically, because they made one palette and then they sent out a different one to the masses, to the consumers. So Nikkie, I believe, spent a long time trying to trust other brands to do collaborations with. I know she did the highlighters with Ofra, and then she did the Beauty Bay palette that they came out with last year, I think. The Too Faced and Nikkie Tutorials palette had all the makings of being something great, but Too Faced fucked it up. But that's not new for them. That was the beginning. I honestly, I feel like that was kind of the beginning of, I don't want to say the end, but the beginning of the downfall of Too Faced, because they were up to some shenanigans after that, which is the next one I'm going to talk about, which is their collaboration with Erika Jane. I had never heard of Erika Jane before this. I had no idea who she was because I don't watch any of the Real Housewives show because I don't give a shit. So I didn't know who this person was. And then when I saw the collection come out, dare I say, I was taken aback. I wouldn't call myself a prude. Like, I have plenty of accoutrement that I keep in my bedroom. Okay? I'm not a prude, okay? But this collection was just tacky. I also think that this was the point where I realized that Too Faced name meant a lot more than just a brand name. Meant that they really had two different brand identities. They had the very like childish chocolate bar, teddy bear, whole palette themed after Jared Blandino's dog, Jared Blandino being like the head of Too Faced. And then they also had all of the like very risque stuff. So they had like the glow job face mask, which that's still gross. Okay, that's still gross. But this collection, the Pretty Mess collection, that's what it was. The eyeshadow palette was scattered and dumb and just boring. Like the eyeshadow palette itself was just very bland and very neutral and nothing special. So I had no reason to get excited about it, but I had every reason to be grossed out by it because the packaging was just like tacky, but they had a powder. They had a powder called Pat the Puss, but it was just very off-putting. And then the lip gloss, they called it DSL Lips. I was looking back at some of my old anti-hauls and I talked about this one. DSL Lips, which is sucking lips, like hello. But also they called it DSL Lips, so kind of like ATM machine. It was tacky and it was stupid and it was ugly, and I don't feel like anybody really liked it who weren't already fans of Erika Jane. I don't know who this person is. I mean, it was very much a Too Faced type thing, but it was just messy and tacky and I hated it. It was so bad. It was bad. Tarte and Lele Pons. Tarte Cosmetics has been through some ups and downs. When I first started using Tarte products, it was when their Amazonian clay blushes were all the rage. I really loved their mascaras too when I was still using high-end mascaras. And I don't think I own any eyeshadow palettes from Tarte. I have some singles that I accidentally got in an empty palette that I bought from an Ulta once, so I inadvertently stole eyeshadows. I don't know, it's a weird story. Tarte has done some odd collabs, and this was one of the weirdest ones, because not only was it a cash grab, because Lele Pons is not known for her makeup at all, it was also just like objectively like not an attractive palette. It was like very lazy. It was like they took just a marble, like a cheap marble pattern and put it on the outside of a palette that was just all the same kind of neutral, warm tones that Tarte was known for. And then they like just kind of put them off center. It was just like, ooh, it's quirky. It was the quirky eyeshadow palette. It was like the eyeshadow palette equivalent of that face that Lele Pons makes trying to be funny. There's a handful of Vine creators that came over and just ruined comedy on YouTube, and Lele Pons is one of them. Also, Hannah Stalking, King Bash. Oh, and then the Paul brothers, Logan and Jake Paul. They also came over from Vine. I don't love everybody who came from Vine. Only some. Only some. This collection with Lele Pons was so clearly a cash grab because her fan base is very young, and so it was very much Tarte like tapping into that fan base and be like, oh, this is easy. It looked like they already had like a stock palette ready to go and they could just slap anybody's name on it. It was like very much not a bespoke thing, and it was perhaps the laziest collaboration I've seen with an influencer. Not the laziest collaboration. Max Sims was the laziest collaboration ever, but this was pretty bad. At least they printed her name on the palette. Next, this is a random one, but when I was scrolling through Temptalia, because again, shout out to Temptalia for just being like the GOAT of makeup archives. Seriously, Christine, you're amazing. Gigi Hadid did a collection with Maybelline, and I forgot about this. So, like, I was looking through it and I was like, a thing that happened. The palette itself, the color was very much that kind of early millennial pink that looked just like a chicken cutlet. It was just like uncooked chicken pink. It was so unattractive, like a weird light flesh color. It was so expensive for being in the drugstore, and it was so just boring. I was a little bit confused why Gigi Hadid had done a collab with Maybelline. It seemed like of all the people, her doing a collab with like a Becca would have really made sense. It was just not cute. Like the all-in-one packaging, I hate all-in-one packaging. I hate when there's like a brush and a cheek thing and eyeshadow and a eye thing. Like, I hate those. I hate those. I hate those. Which brings me to my next one, which was the Carly Bible and BH Cosmetics Part 2. Carly Bible and BH Cosmetics did 2 different collections, 2 different collabs, and I don't think I've ever watched a Carly Bible video in my life. Maybe one that I can think of. So I don't really know anything about her otherwise. But I do know that the ABH collab that they did, she kind of got done dirty because it was in the midst of everything else coming out. And the colors didn't look bad. Like, the colors in her palette weren't terrible. The packaging was one of the ugliest things I've ever seen ABH put out. But this collection with BH Cosmetics was something I didn't know about at the time. But going through and looking through things, I was like, oh, this is, why? Because the first one they did was very much like a basic neutrals palette, which at the time, I believe this was 2016 or something. It made sense, you know, just like everybody needs some kind of basic neutrals palette. It was boring, but it was like a staple type palette. But then when they did the part 2, it was the same palette just with face stuff added in. What? Why would they need that? Why not just have a separate thing that was just a face thing? Because people already bought the first one. Why would they want to buy it again plus face stuff? It was very weird. It was very weird. I know that Physicians Formula has done that a lot. I think Physicians Formula did like a Casey Holmes collection that was very much like all in one box that again was ugly. Yeah, this palette, when I looked at it, I was like, this just looks like they took a more fun palette and then just stuck a sepia filter over the top because it all looks like the same kind of color. And it was just a snooze fest. The packaging wasn't even that inspired, and it was just all around boring. It's just bad. Because BH Cosmetics has the ability to come up with cool collabs. I believe it's the It's My Ray Ray one that Nisa loves. I think so. Correct me if I'm wrong, Nisa. But this Carly Bible one was bad. It was bad. Last 2. Well, technically last 3. Y'all know how I feel about Jaclyn Hill. And I will say, objectively, the first big palette that she came out with Morphe with, I was tired of hearing about it, and it was too big for my taste, but it was objectively like a pretty palette. Too big, but pretty. And from what I saw and from what I heard, the quality was good. It was better than Morphe's regular quality. So like, that's not going on this list. The Vault is though. The Vault was bad. The Vault was such an embarrassment. The Vault, I think, was the beginning of Jaclyn's facade crumbling. And it was the weirdest turn of, just the whole series of events was so bizarre. First of all, the theme for the collection was that these were extra shades from her palette. So reject shades. Why would we want to buy palettes of reject shades? I don't know. She had the Vault with like 4 different palettes full of reject shades, which were essentially just a whole nother sized palette, just broken up into 4. And then when influencers started reviewing it and people started making videos, they were like, oh, this quality is really bad. This can't blend. These are patchy. This sucks. I don't like this. I don't recommend it. So then Morphe stopped the release like immediately and then said that we're going to recall these and give you a better product. Jaclyn comes on camera and has all these stacks of palettes next to her, and it's like, we're gonna go through and we're gonna fix these for you because you guys deserve the best. And the new versions came out a month later. There is no possible way that Morphe was able to create all of those palettes from scratch in a month. The other big issue came in when people were getting the new palettes and they were the same quality and they had the same batch codes. They had the same numbers on the containers. So then Jaclyn comes on camera and says, oh, Morphe didn't want to waste the packaging, so they took out all the shadows and then refilled them. Again, that's gonna take way more time than a month to do, and it seems super sketch for an established brand to do. Like, it seems like something that a startup indie brand that's like made by hand, where people don't know any better, it seems like something that they would do to like cut overhead costs if they needed to redo stuff. But like a big brand like Morphe, that doesn't track at all. Palettes, they looked fine. Like the color stories looked decent. Like, I remember seeing them, I was like, oh, those little ones are kind of pretty. Like, Morphe coming out with small palettes, wow, revolutionary. And then when the quality came out and I was like, yeah, those are bad. Those are really bad. Like, the videos where people were using them, it was embarrassing. It was so embarrassing. That was the beginning of the end for Jaclyn, I like to say. For her being trustworthy. Because the next thing happened.
Hey.
Obviously, her lipsticks was her own brand, so it's not a collaboration. But the next Morphe collab that she did, which was the Jaclyn Hill Morphe 2, the one that was like more purples and oranges. Again, objectively, palette was pretty. If it was smaller, probably would have used it. Too big for my taste, but pretty. And when they released this palette, everybody was super excited about it because people were like, oh my God, it's going to be the same quality as the first one. It's going to be beautiful, because that's how they were selling it. They were selling it like it was going to be the same great Jaclyn Hill and Morphe quality that you remember from the first palette. Except it wasn't, because the formula changed. And a key thing that they changed in the formula was the fact that it was no longer vegan. And I remember, I think it was Jen Loves Reviews, whose video I saw where she kind of uncovered the fact that they completely changed the formula on the new palette and then on the old Jaclyn Hill palette. So they changed the formula kind of on the down low, didn't tell anybody that they were making it no longer vegan. And then when they released the new palette saying it was the same great quality, people were getting it and the labels were like, there's carmine in this. What the hell is this? This isn't vegan. And then Morphe had to be like, oh yeah, no, we changed it. Which is so fucking shady. Like, that's so shady to completely change up a formula to where it's no longer classified as that. That would be like a frozen dinner company, say. A frozen dinner company made like some pasta dish, right? And then the original ingredients, there was no milk products, no egg products, no cheese, it was vegan. And then quietly, without changing anything on the label except the ingredients on the back, they started to add milk powder. If people are vegan for ethical reasons or for dietary reasons, they need to know. Yeah, sure, they labeled it correctly, but it was misleading advertising, or based on what the original palette was classified as. So, super shady. That was, again, another point where I'm like, why do people keep trusting Morphe? Please stop trusting Morphe. Please, thank you. Okay, last but not least, oh God, here we go. The Shayna Jeffree palette. I've made multiple videos about my thoughts about the palette, them as people, the series. This palette, I believe people only liked that much because they were sold it in an 8-hour long commercial. Because looking at it now in hindsight, yeah, okay, the packaging, removing all of them as people, removing that context, the packaging looked cool as hell. But the actual color story wasn't one. There was no color story. It was just, here's some things that are relevant to Shane Dawson, and we're gonna throw them all in a palette that doesn't make any sense. Because the palette's ugly. Like, it's just an ugly palette. Like, nothing makes sense. Nobody would have bought it if it didn't have Jeffree Star and Shane Dawson's name attached to it. I almost said James Charles. People wouldn't have bought it if they weren't sold it for 8 hours. I think it was actually D'Angelo Wallace who I saw. The first video I think I found of his was when he talked about how that series was just an 8-hour long commercial for the palette. It was just an advertisement. And it worked because it sold out like that. It sold out multiple times. People were losing their shit about it. And, you know, it worked. Everybody on the internet was talking about it at that point because Shane was still in like a lot more people's good graces. Not everybody's good graces, but a lot more people. The facade had not completely fallen at that point. The palette is just ugly. I stand by the fact that if it came out from any old brand, like if Pure had come out with that, if BH had come out with that, if ColourPop had come out with that, if Tarte came out with that, people would have been like, what the hell are you smoking? Because it's so out of left field for any of those brands. But people only bought it because it had Jeffree and Shane's name on it. And because they were so invested in the story and in the process, because Shane made it seem so glamorous and wonderful and like heartwarming. My heart was not warmed, you know? My heart was not warmed. My butt was not warmed. It's a butt. Anyway, yeah, I think that was everything I wanted to talk about. I think those were all the palettes. There were definitely some that I forgot. I mean, there's so many from ColourPop. Most of the ones that I think are the worst are the ColourPop X IP, like Disney, Candyland, Hello Kitty, all those things. But weirdly enough, going through ColourPop's old collections, like just scrolling through ColourPop's tag on Temptalia, their earlier palettes were way more inspired. They just got lazy. Bring those back, please, ColourPop. Ooh, that's another good idea for a video. Discontinued products that I want to come back. Give this video a thumbs up if you want to see that. Also, let me know what some of your discontinued products that you would like to see come back. Look at that. I got a candlestick. Look at this. Look at that. Call me Colonel Mustard. Oh my God, Colonel Mustard. I love mustard. As a color and as a condiment. Yeah, those were all the influencer collabs that I just would like to forget. I will leave links to other videos with similar themes that I got inspired by in the description, because there were a handful of videos that I got this idea from, and credit where credit is due. Let me know your thoughts on some of these collections, if you remembered them, if you totally forgot them, if you remember that random ColourPop collab with the two sisters, the heiresses who have personalities. I don't know. I don't know. If you remember those, please help me, because I literally am going to lose my mind if I can't figure it out, because there's nothing on the internet that I can find. Also, I'm wearing my Fuck the Patriarchy earrings today. Hello. Fuck it. Fuck the patriarchy. These come from actually Omi Shop. OHME Shop. I also have a vulva ring from them. They're cool. Yeah. Okay, song of the day. Let's see the song of the day. Dracula Drag by Frankie and the Witch Fingers is your song of the day. I think I've made that my song of the day, but like 2 years ago. Almost, because they played at Freakout Fest 2018? 2019? I think it was 2019. I don't remember. I think it was the last festival I went to, Frankie and the Witch Fingers played at. They're really cool. It's like psychedelic punk rock and like good stuff. Super sweaty shows. I can't wait to get back to sweaty shows. I just want to be in a room full of sweaty weirdos wearing flannel again. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, everybody. I hope you are staying home. I hope you are staying safe. I hope you are keeping your damn mask on, even if you're vaccinated. And I hope you can get vaccinated as soon as possible, because look at those case numbers. They're going right back up. So please, keep doing what you're doing. I appreciate you if you have. Keep staying safe, okay? But I hope you have a good rest of your week, rest of your weekend. It's Friday when this is being posted, right? No, Thursday. Is it Thursday? Is today Thursday? God, today's Thursday. Holy shit. Okay, everybody. I will see you all in the next video. Bye!